Hey, Kliq This fans, want to get closer to the show than ever? Join Kliq This TV. Kliq This TV offers early commercial-free access to wrestling's hottest podcast, plus live audience tapings of their show every friggin' week. Head to KliqThisTV.com now and get inside the show that's just too sweet.
The following podcast contains mature language and adult discussion.
I'm trying to use this natural gray hair reversal. So Wesley, you may have to darken a little bit in the animation in the opening. Kliq This, the Kevin Nash podcast. I'm Shawn. There's Kev. Hey Kev, the holiday season was upon us and Christmas has passed. I asked Santa for a $1 billion mega ticket, and I didn't get it.
But the beauty of it is, man, that nobody did.
Right. So I can ask again. That's Baby New Year for it now. When's the next drawing?
See, I didn't find out. It's I think Friday or Saturday. I'll buy a ticket. I'll buy my tickets tomorrow. It's so funny when people always say, like, you got a better chance of fucking getting hit by lightning twice during the summer of '92. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But when it comes down, like when I looked at the first, that morning when I woke up and I just Googled it, I said, nobody. Now it's 1.15.
Friday night, 11 p.m.
Yeah, so 1.15. So, but when it said nobody won, I was just like, because when it comes down to it, it wouldn't change my life. It would change my life because I would have to immediately take $5 million and put together security to protect everyone in my family.
An armored tank at everyone's house.
Because they would not, like, everybody would be cartel fucking targets.
Yeah, maybe more trouble than it's worth. I don't know.
I think so.
There
was a thing that I didn't read it because I didn't really give a fuck. With some guy won $2 billion, and he was walking down the street. He didn't look like he had much of it left. So I saw it come across my phone. I said, I don't want to hear some fucking. I know that the guy bought like a $45 million mansion of 8. He started out buying he bought like a $5 million home in LA, then like a 8, then like a $45 million home. And I'm thinking, and he bought like a huge.
The
other guy's saying he stole the ticket. The ticket was stolen from him. Some guy like in a blue maintenance outfit.
Jose Rivera is claiming that the ticket was stolen from him and Edwin Castro.
Edwin Castro ended up cashing it in. So,
well, listen, $2 billion, was that the amount? You know what you could buy for that, Kev? The second most popular wrestling company in the country.
AEW
in the world.
Well, you could actually buy. It's not AEW is not even worth what the $2 billion after taxes.
That's the valuation that I saw in the media this week, Kev. $2 billion.
Yeah, I think they used that same indicator for Mar-a-Lago.
Well, because they had just asked Trump what the valuation of Trump Enterprises was. You ran into some issues in New York about
WWE's got a $10 or a $5 billion contract, and AEW's got a 3-year, $450 million contract. You tell me.
Yeah, and well, WWE's valuation at $9 billion is significantly more. But the thing that really brought it home, Kev, we looked at some sports teams.
Yeah, the Jaguars only double that, and they're fucking their TV rights is like $350 million
Yeah,
a season.
yeah. The split NFL takes in it was like 9 or 10 billion on their TV contracts, and they divide it amongst the teams. And I think each one's grab was there. It is 374 million from the shared pool. So I don't know. Listen, there's got to be they got to that valuation somehow. 2 million. So 2 billion, excuse me.
Yeah, it's like fucking saying you got a 12-inch cock and you measure it from the fucking crack of your ass.
Right.
Measured from a foot and a half inside your asshole.
That's actually the official terminology that when the IRS has to vet you before you sell the company, they say, Tony, did you measure from inside the butthole, or did you go?
That's right.
Did you go with the base?
Did you go 2 knuckles into your anus to fucking set the measure?
Kev, we were almost unmonetized last week. I didn't bother to bring you anything because we were able to solve it. But Steve, can you bring up the picture? There was some. I guess there were some F-bombs last week. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. I know we were talking about the bathroom sink in the airplane, which is a very popular topic, by the way, amongst viewers. But Steve sends me a text. He's like, I don't know if we're going to be monetized. I'm like, why? And zoom in. There it is. 585. Does that say? Yes.
What is that?
The number of times the F word was used last week.
I don't, and I'm completely sober. No, nothing. That's just.
It's just. Listen, they say that it's a sign of intelligence, using profanity in creative ways. There's some of the transcript, all the yellow.
Let me see here.
If anyone's watching this. It looks like a heat map. War-torn Bosnia, circa 1992.
All right, I'm glad you. Let's see how well we can do tonight.
Yeah, so far we just had a little crack of the ass, couple of knuckles deep, but I don't think that shows up as a flag. To be honest,
I don't think we F-bombed though, did we?
I don't think so.
I'm sure I threw an F in front of that. That you have to F and put. Yeah.
Kev, we were talking before we went on the air, and somehow we landed on WCW. We must have been talking about creative valuations, and we landed on the blood incident, the Stephen King Carrie incident where you were missed by the blood.
Yeah.
And in your inimitable business acumen, in this repeated error, you saw some opportunity.
Well, I forget how much. I had a pair of jeans that cost a couple $100, and I was on the road earlier that day, and I got mustard on the jeans. So they missed me the third time, but I moved into the blood so I could write off the outfit.
You wore the jeans that you had the mustard.
Yeah, they were destroyed. So I went ahead and I said, you know what? I'm not gonna cry over that mustard. I'm just gonna go ahead and charge WCW for.
What was the blood? Do you remember what substance they used?
Probably Caro syrup,
with
red dye,
red and blue dye. Yeah.
Here's one for you. So I was watching a clip from American Bandstand, and they had John Travolta on, and he I didn't catch. It was maybe it was like CNN, like the 80s or 70s or whatever it was, but it was Travolta, and he was a cast member of Cotter at the time, and then he sang. And he said that, Dick Clark asked him what he was up to. And he said, he was going to do his first dramatic motion picture. and it was the movie Carrie, which I don't remember him being in, but I guess I kind of do.
Yeah, he was one of the boyfriends.
Yeah, and so sweet hair.
I was gonna say this is.
I love the what's in your wallet.
I like that he's doing that Santa
the
thing
Santa.
too.
Yeah, it's just.
He knows, and a lot of people would say, I'm not going to revisit that, Saturday Night Live dance, but he embraces it. Now this is unbelievable. We're clicking through the video of him singing in a very tight turtleneck with the exposed chain outside, and the hair not unlike Kate Smith from Charlie's Angels at the time.
This is the actual Dick Clark thing, right? This is it.
I think this is it. But he, and I think of what the movie stars were at that time, right? This is 70s, so hard-edged, like Steve McQueen, Burt Reynolds, uber, like Marlboro Man dudes.
Burt Lancaster.
And,
Forget about it.
And here he comes. Kind of a different, maybe a breath of fresh air for some who wanted a softer leading man, perhaps.
But he went right into Danny. He was Danny Zuko, and then like I said, he went into the.
He had a little grease action.
Yeah, they had. But he did Saturday Night Fever first.
Boy in the Bubble.
That was his first like long-term love. That woman was years older than him that played his mother. I think that they were a love interest after that film, if I'm not mistaken. If my People magazine mind is up to date.
Tiger Beat centerfold information there.
Remember when People magazine was like wasn't a dirt rag? That was actual. You got crabs over there, buddy?
Rubbing my stomach.
Your stomach?
I'm not quite down that far, but yeah.
I thought maybe you had that crab ladder.
Sitting, I mean, people, we're just starting for everybody else. We're on the air 10 minutes, but we've been sitting here for what, an hour and a half, right?
I don't know.
And it's a very unnatural posture I take. I lean a little forward.
Dude, when I leave here, I am fucking paralyzed.
Right. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear someone else.
That's the first F I've thrown because I had to throw that on there. Because I'm not just paralyzed.
Right.
I mean, I'm boom.
We could do this show laying down. There's no reason we have to be so upright.
I think I could actually, if I had one of those like
go upside down.
No, that's kind of the cliche psychologist. When you go see The Shrink, you have that like chase that you lay on.
Yeah, the chaise lounge.
Yeah, that would be good to do it on.
You should lay on that. Have Leonardo DiCaprio draw you or paint you,
right?
A la Titanic. Put a fig leaf over your
genitalia,
over your lower area, and we'll see. Maybe I think our ladies that listen,
genitalia,
enjoy that.
Genitalia. Is that tomato?
I've never heard anyone say Gen Italia. That I would think someone was talking about a woman named Jennifer from Italy. It's Gen Italia.
With a tail?
With a Talia, yeah.
Maybe Jen with Talia Shire.
Be a new series. Did do any holiday? Do you have anybody over? Did you go anywhere?
My mother-in-law came over for a little bit yesterday.
Okay.
This is bad. This is a real rough. It's a rough one.
I know.
Christmas is only topped by the day Tristan passed. Nah, his birthday's rougher than that. That was a day like you remember him going to the hospital and holding him for the first time, and you go down that rabbit hole too. But this is really rough because when it comes down to it, Christmas is for kids, and you just remember every. Cause I looked at Tamara yesterday. I said, like God, like he had every guitar you could possibly want. Like what? Nothing's came out. There's not a PlayStation 6. So like what would we both kind of determined at this point it would have been clothes. Like he would have wanted like some clothes.
What about experience type things like tickets to concerts or?
He never was. He wasn't a big. He's like his dad. He's not a crowd guy.
Right. God, Christmas Eve, you got me. You sent me an Instagram video of a spontaneous, I guess flash mob you'd call it, like where people gather
Oh,
at a mall, and I saw it was called Pink Floyd Experience. So I was like, oh, cool, they're gonna sing a Pink Floyd song. And Kevin didn't. I mean, you didn't write anything. You just sent me that video on Christmas Eve, and everyone starts to gather in the video, and they start playing "Wish You Were Here," but not until they get to the chorus, and the people in the mall started holding up pictures of people.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the story about when we went to pick up Tristan's urn?
I don't know that you did.
Okay, so we get the call at like 9 in the morning from the cemetery, and it's to inform us that Tristan's urn is ready to be picked up. So we go out, we get in the car, and we're driving, and we're going down Ridgewood, which is Ridgewood's just kind of a rough fucking road anyway. It just there's no good part of Ridgewood, and it's kind of like Jefferson in Detroit.
This is in Daytona?
This is we're in Port Orange because we're on the other side. We're on the mainland side. So there's a Loman cemetery that's to our left, and we're gonna stop at this. We stop at the traffic light, and Tamara and I we're holding hands, and we haven't said a word. We're just kind of like, oh man, we got to go pick up tea. Like this is gonna be so rough. And radio's on, and there's this like really long pregnant pause, and then all of a sudden that song, that first diddle-doo, diddle-doo. By the time we got there, and I circled around the horseshoe to where I was going to walk in and go pick him up, it was, how I wish you were here. And I was just like, I just looked at Tamara. We both had tears in our eyes. And I just looked at her and I said, well, it's definitely more than just, like T would always say, nah, man, you're just a filament. And then it's over. And then he did acid and then said, no, man, there's a lot more than a filament. And that was one of those times you just say like, wow. Like, and it was, if it would have been, Rock the Casbah, I just don't think the experience would have been quite the same picking up my son, But he crushed us with that Pink Floyd.
I feel like that's a song he would have played because it's
man, he had a 12 string, and a lot of times he would play that. He would just come down because it was one of my favorite songs he played. He played it really well, and but that 12 string just kicked out so much music. And he was so gifted when he wanted to be. Like when he really would work on a song, it almost felt like two people were playing. Because when I watched that video for the first time, I thought, and then I realized, no, man. Then they real quickly they shot that guy up on that upper level, who was playing the second guitar. But the thing that I was really, it saddened me when I watched it. I sent it to you because I was hoping that you would play it through to the point where you could tell that there were people that were part of the flash mob.
And people just happened upon it.
And people that happened upon it that were kind of in our demographic that knew the words and were just walking around just singing it at the top of their lungs. And just like, that was the whole thing. I'm just thinking to myself, like, you know what? We might be boomers or, I'm the last boomer at 59 and then the first generation X is 60. I said, so, that we might be that. And I watched this Asian comedian saying how how inept we are as far as with computers and everything else. And I'm thinking, you know what though, man? We don't have a bunch of auto-tune shit sitting in our brains, Like when it's raining out and you're driving someplace and all of a sudden Riders comes on from the Doors. And you hear that doodle-doo-doo-doo, and you hear that the light, like a thunder in the background. Riders on the storm.
We own a couple of generations between us here, which are responsible for some very good music.
Yeah.
We could skip over the 80s, which was part of my
I
generation.
don't know, man. There's some. I was a huge Depeche Mode fan. I thought Boy George was. There was some good. What's that? The Tears for Fears. There was some good music in that era to me.
But trite. Like I don't know that Everyone Wants to Rule the World will be played in 50 years by an electronica symphony.
You know what though?
But I think Floyd will be.
I watched them. I watched them on Instagram or on YouTube. I watched them like nowadays playing a concert, and that music holds up.
Okay.
So, who else did I see that it was really I really popped? Oh, it was like Modern Times, like maybe 2 months ago. It was the Pep Shop Boys, Weston Girls.
Yeah.
Little Weston Girls. Yeah. And they
had
sound
a few hits.
They sound amazing. They still sound.
They were just on tour this past year with, I think it might have been Depeche Mode. I think they were on the same bill. It was a few of those, like, I don't want to call it new wave, next wave, whatever it was called.
I think that Depeche Mode was, considered themselves new wave. I don't know.
I always thought it was too far from new alternative, maybe.
I mean, I really liked the Smiths. Like there was that whole era of music where. I don't know. I think also the fact that I lived in Europe during that time, like for a period of that time. And I remember hearing like Nina and some of that,
99 Luftballons.
Yeah. But like the German version, not,
Right.
And then going to those huge fests and there'd be, like 12 or 15 bands. I mean, I remember the first one I went to was the first group out was Flock of Seagulls, and they only had like they sang Iran, and then the other one.
And they had Interstate. No, that was STP. But it's something Love Song.
Yeah,
and it's good. It's a good song.
They had like 2 or 3 hits, and then. It just kind of went through it, and I remember it was the last 2 were Loverboy, and then the Scorpions, which were locals.
This is what year?
Oh God, probably 80.
All right, so everybody sounded good then because Scorpions, Klaus Meine of the Scorpions sounded great. I don't know about today, but
83, probably 83.
Mike Reno from Loverboy had a great voice.
Oh yeah,
I check him out. I've seen him today. They go on tour still.
Do they?
And he he's got a lower the register
Right.
and everything. And he looks like he ate Mike Reno from 1980.
Well, he
right
was
now.
on his way. But then again, he was still the guy that wore a headband. That
He
didn't
still
have,
wears the
that,
bandana.
that didn't
yes.
have hair that was in his eyes then. So it just,
Well, so shout out to the 80s rock.
fuck yeah.
Give a little love to that. So feedback, James Weston was listening last week or watching, and he said, Merry Christmas to all, and to all an amazing night. I hope your 2025 is way better than the year before. That's the goal, right? Get a little better.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, geez, after this last surgery, it's just like,
Ray said, Kevin Nash on the Kliq This podcast. Tell Sean Oliver about, Kevin Nash on the Kliq This podcast telling Sean Oliver about how he uses the bathroom on the plane may have been the funniest exchange I've heard in a while. That was echoed by Jen Vargo, who also weighed in and said, I was laughing my ass off at the piss like a bitch comment, and then I need to piss like a goddamn man. Thanks for my weekly doses of no sugar-coated adult male humor. That's a pretty accurate review of us. Like, we could put that up on the thing, I think. No sugar-coated adult male humor. See, YouTube, you want to count the F-bombs? Know where you're at. You're at a show.
You know what? I still, like, there's so few people that are still out there. It's like, Bill Burr's still Bill Burr. He don't give a shit, so.
Correct. Fernand Mishnevitz III Jr. Okay, Kev, you covered last week your airplane bathroom experience. I have to ask what you do if you must and have no choice drop a deuce. I'm certain you take all precautions, but let's say you fall ill on a flight. I'm guessing you must empty out in the lounge before you even get on the plane, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, man, like, if you're going to fly, no reason to consume any caffeine that day. None. No reason. Nothing carbonated, only water. And then it's you hydrate, you do, depending on when you're going to fly, but I do 8 ounces before I get on the flight. Like an Evian, something that's, got some minerals to it. You take your medicine, and then I do a whey protein shake and
bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant.
Yeah, right. And I do it.
Yeah.
I do that in that 8 ounces of Evian. So I count that as the water. So it's like, I mean, I keep everything to a minimum.
Blend it.
Because what you want to do is, like, you're not going to, if you're starving, how many times have you had diarrhea while starving?
How many times have I had diarrhea while I'm starving?
While you're
I don't think
starving.
It's possible, right?
I don't think it is.
No.
So you wake up, you don't ingest caffeine, so you don't pollute your, it's just being smart because.
What about bovine colostrum? Is this?
I just don't mess with anything because everything that I take during my day, I'm going to land and I'm either going to pick up time, drop time, whatever, but I'm going to have plenty of time to get my supplements in, get my meals in, The last thing you want to, there's nothing worse than eating airplane food on the way to the UK. You fly at 5:30 from Atlanta. You arrive, at 6:45 in the morning into Manchester or whatever. And, you go in, you check in, you go. That's when you go in. You don't eat that meal. You go in there and you have your the bangers and the beans and the scrambled eggs, and you get all that in you. You lay in bed for about 45 minutes. Then all of a sudden your body goes, now in the privacy of our hotel room, we can have an experience.
Right. There is something psychological to that.
And then you realize, oh, wow, we're in Europe. They're still using 1 ply.
Oh. You ever do that? You ever been like holding a shit or holding a piss like on a drive, and like you can't get, and then finally you get to a place where you can run into the restroom for an emergency stop, and it's like your brain knows it's coming, like the climax is near because you've been
Oh, and then
and then
yeah,
it's
but
almost the pants almost don't come off before you explode.
or you walk into a Wendy's and you walk into the Wendy's. You've been in enough Wendy's in your life, where you know that you take that hard right, and they're down that short hallway, and then nowadays because everything's unisex, they've got you look and you see the bolts. Both of them are red, and you can't get in there. You're like, oh, and you've almost like let your urine muscles go. That's why
You just have to use the sink in the kitchen.
There has been so many times that by the time I get off the road, and I always pull behind the gas station. And then I just say, you know what? By the time I walk in front of this thing, I'm going to piss myself. So I'll just piss right there back by there's always a dumpster.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to the bathroom inside.
I'd rather piss outside.
This is, again, shocking to me. Why? Privacy? No.
No. I'm stopping to piss.
Correct.
So the last thing I want to do is go in there, and it's almost like it's psychologically, if you go someplace and piss, especially like a raceway or one of those giant, where you got 85, it's like you stop and look at shit because there's just so many options of shit. You go outside and piss by the dumpster. Guess
you're
what?
You're just taking a piss and
you're done. You're back on the road.
You're right.
Yeah.
Stop pulling into Buc-ee's.
I've never been to Buc-ee's.
You got one right there by Stonewood on 95.
Well, they got a prison up the road too, and I don't fucking stop.
Do you know I was at Stonewood when I was down there last. I always try
the one in Ormond.
I like the food. I think it's probably Daytona, right? It's right next to the Tanger Outlets.
Yeah, that used to be Vince Carter's restaurant.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
But the people at the table next to me had the manager, owner, chef, whatever he was, someone in the back that was important come out, and he was like, yeah, he said, this is getting rid of all smoked items. They got rid of their smoker. So like you can't get barbecue there anymore. Which in this South, I think is a crime. They should be shut down for not being able to get ribs anymore or anything there. But so there's a new menu.
I don't go there. We used to have one right in Port Orange, right on Dunlawton. They got rid of it. I'm just like, man, fuck you.
You don't. Well, you got to pass it to get to 95, right? So you must be, or you get 95 further south, actually, right? You don't.
Yeah, I get 95 off of Dunlawton.
Yeah, that's on LPGA Boulevard. It's too far north. Jason Bratelli said, would love to hear Shawn and Kevin's take on this on the next podcast. Now, this was, for those of you not watching, this was filmed in Titan Tower's lobby, Kevin. Am I correct in saying that? And you are dressed.
I saw this on Twitter.
Yes.
And the one thing I said is, instead of "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," we should have been singing "White Christmas."
Because
I don't think there's an employee of color in that shot.
Oh, really? See, now that's interesting. I have to look at this. So this is a video that was shot in the lobby of Titan Tower, where Kevin is the conductor.
I still have that jacket.
Do you really?
Yes.
Listen, the gray suit, the blue suit, they never go out of fashion. Lapel sizes may change. So here's Kev conducting.
That's a French. It's a French designer. I forget Tosco or whatever his name is, but it's. I always put that thing on. I'm like, wow, man, this thing still fits. Shoulders, arms, everything.
Do they bring you to Titan Tower exclusively to conduct the?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was
Oh.
one of my days off.
Oh God!
I'm sure me and Vince got to work out though, so it was okay.
If that made it worth it, this is 37
That-
damn
that-
seconds.
I might have fucking left there and broke into the accounting department. So
Oh, the day that you looked at Ann Russo's.
yeah, that might have been it. I went in like Bond.
So there it is. Steve, give me a little. I don't know if we'll be allowed to use the audio, but. And this is the entire office input. Yeah, Kev, I'm seeing your point here. This is not exactly an advertisement for diversity. And everybody is lining. Everyone is lining.
This is a week before this. I was a killer heel.
I was gonna say they did everything they could to fuck you guys up.
Hey,
got
Kev.
got a couple of days off in December. You want to go see your family?
Hey, Kev, you want to? I know your mom's dying of cancer. Can you come up and do some bullshit to the all-white crew?
Good times. Tyler Wilson said, "My girl said, WTF is that? It's not a curl." Yes, you're right. It's a razor. I stay paying homage to my favorite wrestler of all time. Play this on the pod. Kev, you know you want to, Chico. So this is a dude. This is Tyler with his man curl in the front that he calls the razor. Well done, Tyler. Listen, if your chick ain't down with that.
No, but Scott only pulled that down as razor, and then you pull your hair back when you're not. So if you're doing the razor, then yeah, that's part of doing the razor.
Correct. Blue Elvis sent us a picture and said, "Doesn't this kind of look like Buck Zumhoff riding in the back?" This is an old. Now I had this program from attending a show at the Meadowlands in December, I assume, and the artist's rendition is a little questionable, Kevin. I think maybe someone's kid did this, and they.
Who's the female?
Yeah, that's supposed to be Wendy Richter.
Oof.
But
I know it's Billy Jack because of the hat, right?
Right. But now it gets a little homoerotic with Barry Windham on the back. If you look at the lower half there, Steve, please.
That's Barry Windham on the back?
Yeah, with the cowboy boot. And it looks like, I mean, it's either flesh-colored pants or he's not wearing pants. And Billy Jack is kind of going reverse cowgirl on him there. I don't know. It's questionable. It is certainly questionable. So,
Richter looks like those two brothers that had all that plastic surgery.
Rick looks like Trevor Burbick in that shot.
The twins.
But I believe that's Barry Windham because the boots. It would have to be right with the.
I've never seen a worse caricature of Hulk in my life.
And what's he wearing? I mean, like, you couldn't put him in the Hulkamania gimmick. I don't know.
It's just brutal.
Yeah, it's a rough one. But yeah, Elvis. It does. There is a little Buck Zumhoff in there, and not just because of the position either. He does resemble it. But I think it's Barry.
That's frightening.
Oh, goodness. Oh, guys, if you'd like to be part of the live audience here every week, go to kliqthistv.com and sign up. Part of the pre-show meeting, the warm-up, which seemed to take forever today, and gets us in the right mindset for our show. And our show, by the way, that I want to remind everyone, brought to you by BLUECHEW, one of our many sponsors, but our oldest sponsor, our friends at BLUECHEW.
Absolutely.
Does BLUECHEW work? Is that what you're asking? Are you really asking if that works? Guys, this wouldn't be the leading...
Wood. See?
Wood, exactly. What is it? It's the online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is because they're going to give you a month free. Okay, a month free to try this, and you and your partner will not be disappointed. The process is one of the best things about this. Super simple, confidential. Just go to BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you're going to receive your prescription within days. Made in the USA, shipped directly to your door in discreet packaging, and it's all done online. Don't worry about the doctor's office. No conversations with anybody. No waiting in line at the pharmacy. And you can take them anytime, day or night, just to be prepared. If there's a sense that there might be some action, if you may need to rise to the occasion later, just pop one of those pills before you head out for your nightly plans, and you will be ready to rock in no time. Speaking of rock, Blue Chew wants men rock hard. They told me so. This is their mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up. So let them help you raise your rod this season, and go discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got that special deal for the audience. Try Blue Chew for free for 1 month. Just pay that $5 shipping at checkout when you visit BlueChew.com. That's BlueChew.com to get your first month free. And thank you for sponsoring us. Don't forget to let them know we sent ya. And
That would have been a nice stocking stuffer.
Stuffed.
Give Dad or Grandpa a little Cialis to.
Yeah, and explain it. What is this? That the explanation is what you have to get on camera.
Just take it and tell Mama to honk on Bobo.
Oh my goodness, Kevin, we talked extensively. One of the news items that we were drawn into was a video of Jeffrey SACHS talking about, he was on, I don't know what panel he was on, to be honest. I saw it on the Instagram that you sent me. He was on a show with a live audience, and he went through a chronology of Putin and the Ukraine situation, but rolled it back to give what he was presenting as a more complete view of the conflict and what lay beneath a lot of the conflict. It's a very long clip. We can't play the whole thing, but if you search it out, you can find it.
Let's make sure that they can find this. But so I went ahead, and because I was over, I was in that theater deployed before this, and so I'm thinking to myself, this started in '90. Is when that's the first time they make a reference to a date is 90. And I was just like, when did Reagan go to Berlin and say, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall? That was 87.
Yeah, he was done in 88, so it would have been right before
that. That was 87. So then they called it the 2x4 agreement or something like that, which took place in 90, which was between East and West Germany, and then between the other four members that were in World War II, which was France, Great Britain, the United States, and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who put this this packaging together for the unification of East and West Germany. And then from there, I wanted to think that the Russians had until 94 to get all their troops out of, which at that point would have been East Germany. And then we had to start moving our nuclear weapons out. So that was like the first time. But this whole thing was set up, and the justification to Gorbachev was, yes, I'll knock down the wall. Yes, we'll start unification of the two Germanys under the promise that you won't grow NATO.
This is SACHS' position. And the reason I'm saying that is because I watched the whole video, and it was very interesting. And I'd not seen an inaccurate historical or a complete, let's say, historical lead up to this. I lived through most of it. I was younger, so it was presented. So then I started to dig deeper, and there's enough out there that suggests SACS is very, I don't want to say pro-Putin, but is, I mean, people have called him a mouthpiece for Russia, but is hyper-focused on creating a narrative that Russia has been goaded into this and led into this conflict by the West. So I talked to you about this today, and you were talking about when you were in Germany as early as well. Tell me the year.
Early 80s.
Okay.
Early 80s.
And that was only a couple of years outside of the first NATO.
Yeah, because we
were
were
deployment. I don't know if that's the wrong word.
I was stationed at NATO Site 4.
Right.
And I think they
that was new though, right?
Yeah, they opened that maybe in 81,
Okay,
81,
right.
something like that. But that was 42nd Field Artillery. 42nd Field Artillery was moved to Rivers Barracks in Gießen. The 202 Military Police Company, which I was in, which provided physical security, was at Pendleton Barracks. And yeah, it's just we had definitely had nuclear weapons, and we had a shitload.
So in the fact check article from The Hill, they talk about SACS's quote from this video, which is, in quote, in 2007, Putin made the right speech in Munich where he said Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev was promised in 1990 that NATO would not expand, that U.S. Secretary of State James Baker promised that NATO would not move an inch east. So the fact check part of this article says Gorbachev and Baker did indeed hold talks on German reunification and the future of NATO in 1990, during which Baker repeatedly said that a united Germany would be a part of NATO. In fact, he argued that this would be in the interest of both the U.S. and the Soviet Union because, quote, if Germany is not rooted in the existing security structure, then a state will emerge in the center of Europe that will be concerned with securing its security in a different way. By remaining in NATO, Germany can more easily give up nuclear, chemical, and biological capacities. So I read this whole thing and I go through all the fact checks and I get to the bottom. And so the initial argument from SACS seemed to make a lot of sense, given what's going on. Then I read this and all the fact checks seem to make a lot of sense. I get to the bottom. It's written by Oleg Dunda, a member of Ukraine's parliament. So I'm like, all right, so I'm at the buffet, but I'm down in the seafood area of the buffet now. I'm not in the kitchen anymore.
No.
I'm being given a choice as what to believe. So then I find another one. I'm like, all right, let me find something somewhat neutral. And the second article I come across is written. The economics professors that work with him banded together and published a letter at Columbia University, by the way, and published a letter coming out against and condemning the statements of SACS. So again, here's someone with an interest. These are people on the campus there who may have had more. So my point is, where do we go for news? Where do we go
for
the point counterpoint in anything anymore?
That's why so many people say, "Oh, I hate Taylor Sheridan's shows; they're over the top." I'm saying, yeah, what? Oh man, this is on Lioness when Morgan Freeman goes. When news went to 24 hours, news no longer was news, and news became entertainment. Period.
100%. News is entertainment now, sure.
It's entertainment. So it's...
But how much would we not have been able to access, Kevin, if it was back in the old days when it was just Walter Cronkite, his 30 minutes was taken as gospel, and that was it? Like, we didn't have all these other avenues. I'm just doing devil's advocate because I don't know what's worse.
I look at it and I just think that you have to look at news. Is anybody, what is it called? Because I watch this every day, And just for another
Dynamite, it's called.
to know.
AW.
Democracy Now.
I've seen it.
Democracy Now on YouTube.
I have them on Twitter.
Yeah, mine's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I watch on YouTube, and you couldn't pick worst people to be your anchors than these people.
Yeah.
I mean, it
But
looks
you
like
can tell pretty quickly from watching a broadcast where that broadcast lays.
yeah.
So there's left leaning, there's right leaning.
But then
You're going to get that.
When they were talking about this is the first time I watched it was I wanted to get their take on when the Syrian rebels like took over the country. I said, okay, this should be a pretty good indicator of where they're going. And it was so convoluted and so just, it's one thing when you get one of our, if you want Fox News, if you want the Fox News coverage, if you want the NBC coverage, like whatever you want for coverage, and then if you want the Reddit coverage, like it just depends on what you want for your. It's like
it's the buffet.
Yeah, it's old school Dairy Queen when they didn't just have the chocolate dip. They also had the strawberry and butterscotch that you could get your cone dipped in.
Right, and the one that would harden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
here's a little graphic of where news agencies land in their leanings, left, right, or center. It looks like the most centric, if you could zoom in there a little bit, Steve. AP, UPI, the aforementioned The Hill. I think is that a BBC logo there or no? No, it's a B something. It's too small for me to see. But so, BBC is there. Okay. So I'm
surprised that ABC is that far
close to the center. You mean that close to the center?
Well, I mean, it's actually
they're living left. They're living a little bit.
Yeah,
left.
They're living a lot. See, Wall Street Journal is. I mean, I guess that's where that's probably where my brain's at. I'm probably more Wall Street Journal.
Well, they are right leaning if you read their op-eds.
Yeah.
Now, what's the up and down? I see the left, right, but what's the significance of one being higher than the other? The amount of bullshit they spew? I can't see what the y-axis represents here. The reliability. Okay, so Fox is way below the reliability line. See, as you get closer to the center, everything kind of lifts a little bit. And then all the way on the left, who's the leftmost lowest?
Click this. What the?
Some people would have you think. I'd like to think we're a little closer to the center than that.
Yeah, God, yes.
I can't see the logo. I don't know what they are, but as you zoom, the logos shrink.
It's weird.
It's a counterintuitive website. I have an issue with this.
It's the most. Nobody wants to be a part of this. It seems to me like they edited the story we just tried to cover.
But so that's an interesting site.
As says. So what is it? What is your feeling, Shawn? Do you think that when President Trump gets into office, do you think that he's going to sit down with Putin, and do you think that they're going to say, okay, enough of this, and Russia, you keep what you got, and we're done?
No, the issue's larger than any American politician's going to be over and handle. There's like a ceasefire type thing, or everybody just stops and goes home.
Yeah, I think ceasefire, and then from there, I mean, there's no way that Russia's going to give back what they've taken.
No, but they've committed to a direction. And when you have a dictator like that, they can't dial it back. Their entire credibility is on the line. They rule through fear. So just as Hitler wouldn't have went, do we need France? You're not gonna see that.
What it comes down to, though, what they needed was that port. Russia needed that port. That was the key of that invasion, was they did not have a port, and they have one now.
Yeah, I don't see this. I don't know. Hopefully there's resolution. Listen, innocent people.
Well, I don't think that.
You have to.
I just don't see this administration writing another check for $150 billion. Not when Rami and fucking Musk want to take our entitlements, Social Security that we pay in.
That's their favorite fucking word, isn't it?
Yeah, entitlement, motherfucker, because I'm entitled to it because I put into it.
You're entitled to your money.
Yeah, I'm entitled to my money. How about this? How about you take 75% of your $400 billion, and why don't you put that in something, and then, why don't you put that into Social Security?
It's my hope, Kevin, that the wild headline grabbing, they're all having a great time. This is the fraternity that's getting all the attention on campus now. So they're wilding, they're yelling out the windows and throwing the toilet paper and hanging the panties. But the reality is, eventually reality bites, and they're going to have to realize that all the things that we heard thrown around, like veterans benefits and
just
VA, it's not going to happen. It can't happen.
No, it's not going to happen. But and I look at Tamara because she'll ask me questions and we'll have dialogue back and forth. And it's so sad when you look at each other, and you say, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it because it doesn't affect me. The only person it really affects in my inner circle is my mother-in-law. And when it comes down to it, we got her back. She's cool. They could take her Social Security tomorrow, and we could supplement it times 10, and she'd be, we're good. So, but it's people, that it's a part of if you're just counting on Social Security to be your everything, I think you're in trouble. But if you got Social Security, a pension, and a Roth, and this and that, then that, I don't know if it's $2,800 or $2,900 that you're going to get from Social Security. It's part of a
larger nest egg,
right? And all of a sudden, that may only be 10% of what you've got planned, but I think with the combination of AI deregulating healthcare to a degree and 3D printing, there could be some huge medical breakthroughs with stem cells and everything else that all of a sudden, like I said,
you're talking about a counterbalance, right? If you're going to take from this side, you have to invest here so that you're still delivering a full plate.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Never happens.
No.
Because Washington's a fucking mess, and you can't get anything through Congress anymore.
No.
Although now, I guess, anything can get through that they
want.
But
could you ever?
I
just have a feeling like
I'm not old enough to tell you that in the Congress of 1964 was any more productive than this one.
I just don't see it. I just don't see them passing the civil rights bill and things changing. I think everything has been bullshit forever.
It's a long, slow process. Any kind of change is. And if you're specifically talking about Social Security or retirement or Medicare, Medicaid, it can't happen in a single generation's retirement. This is something that has to be, the people who are 25 need to be preparing for their 65.
I just want to say something. I rarely toot my own horn, but
because you can't get down there.
Well, I can actually pull. I could pull the mouthpiece up to. But I got in the mail right before the holidays, right before Christmas. I got my Medicare card. Boom. When that comes, you're talking about feeling old.
I told you when that AARP card showed up in my mail through
AARP is like kind of I remember when I was like 25 years old, 27 years old, and I was like in my old neighborhood, and a car went around the corner, and out the back window, the kid threw a water balloon at me, and it missed. But it was just like, I see this like lime green, balloon laying there, and exploded into the grass. I'm thinking like, number one, like my size didn't matter because I knew there's no way I was going to chase down a car going 40.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact I'm just like, wow, like you're not the kid in the back of the car anymore. You're the target.
You're the target.
So
Let's hit
that's
that
your
big fuck walking down the street. Yeah.
So that was like the first time. And then it was like when you start going places and you no longer got carded. That's before they did everybody got carded, because I went gray early. I had the Reed Fantastic Four great sideburns at like 28.
At 28?
Yeah, I had some great. Yeah, that was yeah. So
all this shit I'm looking at as Diesel 94, that was all.
Oh,
dye?
that's shit, man.
Jet black.
Vince would be so pissed off at me. I'd get to TV and I'd be on the road the whole time, and he'd be like, "Hey, Big D, what do we do? What we can do with that goatee?" I'm like, "What?" And I just used to keep some waterproof mascara black, and I just.
So he'd see that you had some gray poking
Yeah, a little
through.
gray coming through.
That's not what his superstar looked like.
No, it's not going to work, Big D. So.
Did you show him your pubes and say, "Should I be hitting this too, Vince, or am I good down there?"
No, I don't recall that.
No, it didn't. Okay, well, that was 92. Hey, if I had to tell you that Ric Flair publicly named the two best workers he's been in the ring with, who do you think he'd say?
Shawn Michaels.
Correct, for one. Very good.
Ricky Steamboat.
Yes, you got them both. That was. I thought you'd get the. I thought you'd get the Steamboat, but not the Michaels. Which is interesting to me because Rick's career really started before he was doing the Nature Boy thing. He was heavier, but 74 did he break in? 72, 74?
It was 300 at one point.
Yeah. And so through the 70s, so we're talking Harley Race, we're talking, I mean, he was in the ring with some of the legends of previous generations. It was interesting to me.
But not necessarily the workers. They could work, but the style was so different.
Which brings me to my question to you as I was considering all this. What qualifies someone as a great worker? Is it someone that, you see, when fans and writers who haven't wrestled, and I'm not shitting on that. You don't have to have wrestled to be a critic. You don't have to have been a filmmaker to be a film critic. But the one thing we'll never know is those intangibles that you guys feel in the ring when you're with somebody? Are they too stiff? Do I have to call everything? Did they have a good sense of what should come next?
To me, one of the hugest like you have to put equal parts of ingredients into something to make them a great worker. I think the first thing is believability. Like, are they believable? And it has nothing to do. Rey Mysterio was absolutely believable, so it has nothing to do with physical size. Then it's does their shit look real? When they turn the gear on and they start throwing either boots or fists, does that look or mimic a shoot? I think that's huge. Because
And so whereas somebody who does, like let's say a Paul Orndorff,
right,
who was very believable to me, Buzz Sawyer or someone like that, where it looked like he was kicking someone's ass, that might not for another wrestler, like for you, that might not make him a great worker because maybe he was difficult in the ring in some way.
well, I've only added two. That's only two things.
Please continue then.
Yeah, I'm not done.
Unbelievable.
Then, to me, it's are they a mark? If they're a mark, they're never going to be a great worker.
Define that, meaning that they believe their own shit?
If they won't put people over, if it's like, yeah, if they're not willing to teach, if they're just a mark for themselves and just, and then I always had a problem with anybody that talked about their character backstage as you were putting together a match or putting together something third person. Well, I just don't see, Oz doing that. Hey, dude, you can do whatever you want to do. People used to always say, "Man, you're so big. How am I going to get you off your feet? Drop kick me in the face. I'll bump. Throw 3 good punches. Bounce me off some ropes. Kick my leg out. I'll take a face bump.
Right.
Like, we'll just make it make sense." So,
where do you place value on, in the TV age? You worked in the television age, so somebody being able to take the microphone from the across the ring from you and give you something to work with verbally, like a good actor, right? When you're in a scene and somebody looks you in the eye,
huge, especially if you're going out there and it's just a live mic, and you both know that you've got to know where you're going. You can't cut a promo on a guy that you're not going someplace with. Like if we're going to Moline, then we at least know I'm going to cut a promo at you. You're the babyface. You're gonna tie it up in a bow and sell some tickets to where we're going, which is Moline. I saw something the other day. Somebody wrote. They said, I would rather do 5 moves 10,000 times than do 1,000 moves once. And that's kind of how I looked at things.
would you agree with Rick with the 2 names he gave as
of the greatest workers?
Greatest workers, Shawn and Ricky? Do they check all the boxes that you just gave?
I didn't get a chance to work with Rick when I was in my prime. So I would put Brett and Shawn. But man, it's impossible for me not to put Paul, Sean Waltman, and Scott Hall in that. It's impossible for me not to put Undertaker in that. It's like, Mach. You know, I always thought that when it came down, especially house shows, like working with Hogan was always, because you didn't have to do much, but man, his timing and his sensibilities and
Was Macho, was he one of those that might talk about himself in the third person?
no,
Or was he
no,
cooperative?
he wasn't a mark at all.
Okay.
I just think that I think it was such a Shark Tank in that era that you just knew that you had to fight. For you weren't going to be. Vince wasn't going to give you a spot, and Vince loved to stir it. He liked that it was a Shark Tank.
Because it made you guys work harder.
Yeah.
Right. Shawn Michaels, a difficult personality during his heyday.
Yeah.
Did any of that disqualify him from being on the best ever? He might not have talked himself in the third person, but I'm sure he wasn't easy to, if you were his opponent.
He had a really high standard. There was no such thing as ever taking a night off. Like Scott was the same way. Scott was like, hey man, these people pay a lot of money for this. I mean, man, whatever.
So he was more in that zone than you were, even.
Who?
Scott.
Oh, me? My whole thing was I gave what I had, but at the same time, I did know where I was, and I did see the house. I did know what my payoff was, and I also knew that I had another, 17 nights ahead of that. So, I call it the reverse Cleopatra. Cleopatra just laid there and, thousands of men came and made love to her, where you had to sit there and go out and bust a nut, and you had to do it night after night after night. And it's just like, if you give everything you got to Tupelo, you might not have what
You're not going to
need.
make it to Moline.
Yeah, you might not have what you need in St. Louis. So,
despite the promo, you may not.
Exactly.
Now, what about Rick? Now, Rick gave his opinion. Where does Rick fall on that scale?
I think Rick was one of the best workers. I don't think that Rick's style was as athletic as I think that. I think that what Rick's taking into consideration more than being a great worker is those two were probably two of the better athletes.
Ricky and Shawn.
Yeah. Yeah, they were great athletes. They had speed, and they were able to, like, because Rick kind of worked the same match.
Right.
Rick didn't shift gears. But the thing was with Rick wasn't going to go out there and do 12 either. Rick was going to do 25, 30.
Right.
Because Rick, Rick had to tell, he was going to do the ebb and flow, and Rick was going to tell the story that he wanted to tell. And especially when he was the man, he felt that's, and if you've ever watched, when you watch anything, it's really hard. God, what match was on not too long? It might have been Bronson and Sheamus, and it's just it kind of went past that 8 to 12 point, and then they start doing the false finishes, and then it becomes like the longer you go, especially before you start doing false finishes, if you do 20 and you have a couple of false finishes here and there, it's a strong kick out on one, the psychology is these guys are pretty evenly matched. You're watching it. Is you build that story and tell that story. As long as you, like, if you botch a spot in the middle of that, you're going to lose them. But if you go 20 and then you start false finishing, you're gonna have a much better match because now the people they're vested time wise, and then you know the the only thing you can do at that point is if you screw up the finish, you'll lose them. So as long as you don't screw up the finish, and you get some great false finishes, and the finish is good and it's creative, then the people are going to go home thinking that they saw something that was much better than it was because your psychology drew them in. I think that's the smartest thing of a great worker is the psychology.
Right.
If when you're out there, to me, you're a good worker if you know you're kind of calling it and you say, it's too soon. Go for the super kick. I'm going to catch it, spin you, watch the clothesline. Goes for the super kick, catch it, spin him around, take him down. The crowd's up, 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 up. You catch it, spin around. You take him down. By the time he's halfway to the mat, the crowd's already quiet. When you roll out and you go to the people and they boo you and he's laying there selling. When you can control their emotions like that, that's the art of the work. It's not who can do the most somersaults off the top rope.
And maybe the biggest difference in yesterday's wrestling and today's wrestling, right? Because I think today there is an emphasis on the spots, the physicality, and the
I see
less so on the story,
right? But I see so much of those spots, and one out of you might have a sequence of 5 spots, and one of those 5 is a botch.
right? So now, chances of blowing.
So now immediately, if your psychology is we're going to open with these 5 spots, and on the 4th one you flub that, you're never getting me back. Because all of a sudden I've seen the boom mic in the shot. I know I'm watching fake pro wrestling. Next. Next. Now, if you're just going to go caution to the wind now and set yourself on fire, sure, you'll get a reaction, but you won't get my respect. You got to work smart.
Rick, of course, a master of psychology and controlling the fans and controlling the match and ring generalship, all that stuff. But the other thing is that he was larger than the sport. Occasionally you have people come along larger than the sport. Michael Jordan, larger than the sport. Hulk Hogan at his time, larger than the sport. Ric Flair. It was an event from when the lights would go down in, the Greensboro Coliseum in 86 and 2001 would start to play and the spotlight would find him and the robe and the entrance and the 10 friggin' minutes it took. It was like the pageantry of a boxer that would come to the ring like that. And that amped up the fan experience because it was beyond just watching a wrestling match. Now the main event felt like the main event.
Yeah. I always felt that, especially when I first got in the business, 89, 90-ish, and was at WCW, and you would go to a house show, and the crowds weren't great back then. And but Rick was usually our main event or our champ, and they'd play his theme music, which was, to me, I always equated that with Elvis. But then it was that same thing. It was that pageantry of the Elvis costume to the Flair robe. and then you were seeing, the Elvis character is bigger than life, and the Flair character is bigger than life.
Right.
So,
And he had so much of that I think that made up for, Flair, that there were the ha-ha spots, the ass spot, the pants get pulled down, he'd do the face forward flop, the up, the over,
but
all that stuff.
that's the beauty of it all, is to take a person and take him through that gauntlet of the pageantry, the ha-ha, the, oh, here comes the baby face, knows exactly when to cut him off, whether it's rake his eyes, whether it's kick him in the knee, what the heat, then the comeback, then the false finishes, and then go into the finish. And always, Rick would always cheat, when, especially early in his career, when he was going territory to territory, and he had to pull that 10 pounds of gold to the next town. He got out of it, and it was the respect of the people was almost, he was the champion you love to hate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, so
that's what I'm saying. Like those elements isolated for other people, like we talked about the ha-has and stuff, like mightn't have worked, but because it was all part of the Ric Flair show, it was like going to see fucking Cats. I mean, you're going to laugh, you were going to cry, you were going to sing along. It was everything. You got the whole show when you got Rick. It was a class unto himself.
I remember when Rude came to WCW, and Rude did that. I watched Rude and Sting go around the horn, and they had really, like Steve and Rick had really good chemistry, and they did that. They did the ha-ha and all this shit. And, Rick would always do this one spot where he was waiting for, he would do a clothesline spot with Sting on the floor, and then there'd be another thing. He would go around the corner and he would wait, and the referee would tap him, and he'd turn around and push the referee out of the way. In the meantime, Sting would crawl around that corner behind him and come behind him, and he'd tap him again, and he'd just push him away, and he'd be like cranking his arm, like, come around this corner, I'm going to clothesline you. And then finally, he'd tap him, and you'd see him go like, fucking what? And he'd turn around, and there'd be that moment, it'd be that super slow turn. Because as he slowly turned, the crowd would start to sell, and he'd be like, and you see him make that face like, and he'd turn around and there'd be Sting, and Sting would rah, do the crab, and bang, 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 and he'd get him, and Steve would immediately get him in the ring, and then he'd get Rude running and clothesline, ass bump. Then he'd sell out on the floor. And then Sting would, have his moment, whether he'd go on the second rope, whatever he'd do. And you would just see that the Shakespeare to the athleticism to fucking the pop to, and then Rude would come in, cut his ass off, snag a fucking...
blow a snot?
Yeah, blow a snot in the middle of Sting's back. The people would be white hot, and you'd go again. And it was just like, you watch that and you'd be like, got it. I watched Jake one night in Tallahassee. He was working at Nikita Koloff. And Jake had just came into WCW. And Nikita was kind of being difficult. And kind of working stiff. So finally, Jake was always way bigger than people thought he was. Jake's like 6'6", 275, and he's just starts feeding Nikita for slams, and he just slam him and just get right up, slam, and after about the 12th one, Nikita can barely pick him up, and now at that point it's just like, Jake could thumb him in the eye and just pick him apart. And he needed oxygen, and Jake wouldn't give it to him. And Jake would just take us. It was just a classic on not only psychology, but like knowing exactly how to expose somebody being out there. And that's another thing, man. It's just like, if you know how to expose somebody and that person's being difficult, man, that could be a long night for that other person. And Jake, I watched Jake do that from behind the curtain that night. He came in the back. We were driving together at that time. Because to me, like anytime a New York guy came into WCW, man, I picked their brain. I got with Rude, I got with Jake, and I picked their brain, and I said, man, he goes, yeah, he goes, hey, you watch tomorrow night and see if he stiffs me on those early clotheslines. So
You got you got to know the whole game. You got to know the whole game.
absolutely, those are two masters right there.
Jake and
Jake and Rude, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Kev, another thing you're knowledgeable about is life, and that's why in Dear Sexy we present you with 2 letters actually written to Dear Abby to see if it was you giving the advice.
We just talked about wrestling.
What's that?
We just talked about wrestling.
I know. There goes the neighborhood. First letter. Dear Sexy, my brother is my best friend. He's also an alcoholic. It runs in our family, and he has been addicted for years. His drinking has affected me in several minor ways over the years, but I've always taken a hands-off approach, knowing I can't force him to get help. Well, his drinking is starting to affect my life in a more severe way now. I joined the local police force. I'm afraid that my brother's behavior could cost me my job if I'm seen with him while he acts out, or if I try to defend him. I love my brother fiercely, and I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I need to avoid him, but I love him. Please help. That's from Challenged in the East.
I mean, not that he was a blood brother, but Scott had definitely had some alcoholic demons, and I don't think never walk away. I think that's one of the things that I just didn't get a chance during COVID to be there, because if you reminded Scott that alcohol wasn't his problem, that psychologically he thought alcohol was his solution, and you had to remind him, you had to tell him, he had to hear that from you, because he'd beat himself up. He'd say, no, man, alcohol's my problem. I mean, no, man, your problem is what happened at the dollhouse. Your solution to that is to drink. You have post-traumatic stress disorder. You need to handle that. That was the whole thing that with Sean Waltman was, he went to Meminger, and they take it. They don't take it from the substance. They take it from the psychological. So they go in, and I think the first 30 days is more of a psychological approach to what could be causing the dependency on alcohol or whatever your drug of choice was. And by doing that, they once they can pinpoint what that is, then to get you off the other one, you're already 30 days off it. So if you can, once that person sees that this is what the situation is, this is the problem, and Sean left Meminger and never he never relapsed, or he never had a problem again, and he just went forward.
So in the instance of this person where he's afraid his career may be come into conflict as a police officer with having a brother who acts out publicly.
Well, you know what? I'm going to answer this like Scott would. Hey, yo, you can always get another fucking job. You ain't going to get another brother.
Very good. Next letter. Dear Sexy, my daughter is 40 years old and a lousy conversationalist. She will answer questions, but her conversation always turns to herself. and her narrow, specific interests. She never asks me or others about ourselves, and when she starts talking about herself, there's no stopping her. She seems to need to dominate every conversation. She's been this way, and I think it's partly because she's anxious. She was bullied as a child, and I think that contributes as well. When she was little, her dad and I talked about it, but he's very hands-off and didn't want to address it. Because of that, her style never changed, and now I think we made a mistake. Can you suggest a way I could help her, even now, to become better at conversation? That's from Smooth Talker in California.
Well, I mean, if the cause of this was her being bullied, I would immediately start bullying her.
To counterbalance?
Yeah, counterbalance, put her, set her back. You know what? Has she ever sat down and looked at her and said, whatever whatever her sister's name is, like, the first thing I would do is I would have a conversation, and I would, for 15 minutes, just ask her everything I could possibly ask about what have you been doing, how's work been, I would just ask about her.
Get it all out of the way.
Yeah, just and then say, okay, now I'd like to do the same. I would like you to ask me how my life is, how my relationship is, how my kids are. I would like you to do that to me, because I don't know if you know this or not, but you don't do that. And in order to have a conversation, it has to be a two-way street. So let's try this for the first time. Now, if she looks at it, she goes, oh, well, I really never know I ever did that. Or she has a problem with it. At least I hate when people don't address it.
Which it sounds like this has happened, and that's why it's gone on so long.
If you told her, hey, uncle, I don't want to hear it, but you got to do it that way. Give her her juice for 15 minutes and say, okay, that's great. Now I want to do it. And if she butt in, skis in, go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What about a conversation don't you understand? That's like when the first time you become a good conversationalist is when you shut your mouth and listen to the person that's speaking to you. Not watch their mouth move, don't listen to a word they say, because I'm coming up with something really funny and witty that I'm going to dump in. It's just like,
I tell my kids, use the word you more than you use the word I.
Right.
You're the Dennis Miller of podcasts. Did you know that?
I had no idea. But Mark and his co-hosts were talking, and he said, he said to Nash, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to fly there, and Mark said, hey, I completely get it. He goes, I bitch having to drive to the studio to do this. Like this way, but that was one of the things, because I'm injured right now, and I said, I haven't seen Mark in a long time. I'm sure I'll see him at WrestleMania, but I didn't see him at SummerSlam, and Mark was there. So, because you're in those big ass buildings now, and if you just pop in for a couple hours, unless you know who's who and you know where everybody's at, then you don't see them. But I'm going to make it a point of going and do a Mark show.
That's phenomenal.
So
I'm sure he'll reciprocate, and he doesn't have to leave.
No, he can just come on ours. He
can do it from his toilet. He can.
Yeah. But I would like to. I'd like to. I like Austin too.
Mm-hmm. You've gone down there for him, right?
What's that?
You've gone down there for Austin. Are you talking about Steve Austin, or are you talking about the city?
I'm talking about the city of Austin.
That's
no, this is Taker I'm talking about.
Right.
I went to. I did Stone Cold's, and we were in Nevada.
Oh, okay.
I flew out there.
Well, so he owes you one too. He's got to come on.
Steve and I talk probably like once a week, and we live like identical lives. You take his wife, you take the verbiage he has with his wife during the week out of the equation, and he's a mute, the same as me. I went to the gym the other day, and I can only train my right side, and I can train my legs, but I've got this that when I'm in the gym, I've got to have that apparatus that holds my arm snug against me when I'm sitting here. As long as my arm is propped up away from my body right now, and then it's on my other thigh, so it's like my arm is like this below me, just like it would be. And the only difference is I don't have that fucking sling cutting into my brachial plexus.
Why don't you do the pencil like Bob Dole, maybe, since you've got the
well, there's nothing
position.
wrong with my hand. I sit there
But
all
you've got
day.
the arm in the
Yeah, but I mean, this is. I sit there all day with this fucking green ball and squeeze this thing, and then I was able to do this last workout. My doc Holman said that I could do tricep push downs. So I did because if you do a tricep push down correctly, when you contract your tricep, you cannot put any tension on your bicep.
What did I see you on video doing? Which exercise was that?
That was just range of motion.
Oh.
That was just to get, this motion into my arm. But this is my good arm I just did that with.
Right.
I'm not supposed to do that yet. I'm not supposed to do that.
I didn't see you on a machine?
Yeah, I can do that, but I'm doing it with I'm pulling that with my right arm.
Oh, it wasn't your left.
I'm doing it with both.
Okay, so that would be your left arm. So you're allowed to exercise the arm,
but not. I put this hand. Okay, this is my left hand. So, correct. And it's below my nipple right now. So I put the handle here, and then the other one's here. So as I pull that, this one goes up. But I can't fucking because
so it's not exerting the left side.
My rotator cuff is I've got anchors on the outside of this rotator cuff, and it's all hooked together. It's too soon to pull my heavy ass arm through those sutures. So I have to, but by doing that, I'm not getting like most people can't do that exercise for a long time. I could do that 3 days. As soon as I got the bandage off, I could do that.
Right.
Because I've done it so many times. It just the first 4 or 5 hurt like they hurt like hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then after that, you just they say do 12, you do 30. Because it's just movement. And then when you get done, you ice it, and that's it. Like tomorrow's a gym day, so I'll do 4 sets of Yates rows, like a seated row. I'll do 4 sets of an incline hammer strength. I'll do 4 sets of a Scott preacher curl that I sit down in. I'll do 4 sets each arm triceps. And then because I can't lay and I can't hold onto, I can't do anything hamstring wise because I can't lay on my chest. So I can't do hamstrings. So I'll do 3 sets of leg presses on a selectorized that I'm seated. So I'm seated on a selectorized up. I'm not at a 45 where I've got to get myself up and down. It's just like I sit right into a seat. The seat kind of goes like this that I push. And I'll do 3 sets wide, 3 sets narrow. Yeah, that machine there. 3 sets wide, 3 sets narrow. And then I'll put my feet at the top of the platform so it hits my hamstrings, glutes, and that's it. That'll be my workout.
Right. Well,
And-
listen, you're still getting in the gym. You're still keeping the
Yeah, and
schedule.
I went from I dropped as low as probably like 264 something like that, and then I was right at I was 270. So and that was like all I did was I added my creatine. I take 10 grams of creatine. I was taking all my magnesium and all that other stuff. I upped my water, and I started to work out. So just by upping my water, taking the creatine, then your muscles are going to fill. You're going to get a little bit more fullness to your muscles, and I can even see it. Like I can see it in my chest. Like people don't realize this, but if you train, so while I train my right side, I'm getting a 44% muscle retention on my left side because there's a crossover activation. So when people don't realize that.
No, I didn't. And this is consistently the one topic where you are alone in the ocean when we get into the. I'm appreciating the education, but I can absolutely add nothing.
Yeah, it's
really
it's so important to and I mean I'm talking light. I'm not because when you like that hammer strength incline, like if you put too much weight on it, then you're going to do this. Like you're gonna.
You turning your body,
and this is you're gonna fuck this up. So you gotta get. I mean, I have a 45-pound plate that I put on that thing, and I just do, 12 to 15 reps. But I do them, and I'm learning. And this is my newest thing that I'm going to do when I come back at full. I'm going to slow down. That's my incline machine. I'm going to, and for me, I've got to put that seat all the way down and sit my ass out to get proper, to get it where it's actually hitting the collarbone counter extension to where I hit my upper chest. There's better machines, but as far as when you're injured, you need to be able to sit your ass flat and put your feet flat because you've got to keep your back even. So.
All right. Well, that's
900 surgeries later, I've got the recovery down.
all right. The high spot of the show brought to you by our friends Mickey Ray Sinatra and Courtney and their Get Blitzed Lit Aid. That's right. The nano-infused Delta 9 THC sipping syrup, called such because you put the syrup in your beverage of choice, a soda, a tea, whatever you want. Not more than a teaspoon, though, please, because it's a
Put
fast
the syrup
onset.
in the basket.
It puts the syrup in the basket. Fast onset, 5 to 15 minutes. That's what I'm talking about when I say nano-infused. It goes right into your bloodstream. And this is THC Delta 9, the THC you get from marijuana. If you're in Maryland, you can visit a Stay Lit smoke shop. But for the rest of us, it's legal to ship right from the Get Blitzed website to almost all 50 states without a med card, as long as you're over 21. Now you can save 15% by entering the code Kliq at checkout when you go to get-blitzed.com. That's get-blitzed.com. And if you want to get there going, they're almost gone. The special edition cans, the limited edition cans of Kev's Key Lime and Sean's Blue Raz Lemonade. When you order 2 bottles or more of the Sippin' Syrup, you get one of the limited edition pre-sale giveaways of the Kliq This can of THC Lit Aid Seltzer, which is delicious. And for if you spend over $200, orders over $200, you're going to get 2 cans, one of each flavor. Just specify if you're just getting the one which you would like in the notes. If you want Kev's Key Lime or the Blue Raz, go to get-blitzed.com. Use the code Kliq. Get your discount and get enough to try our seltzer. The new cans are coming. We're going to let you know very soon where you can get them. Thank you, Get Blitzed, as always. And Ask Nash is where we're at now. Hashtag Ask Nash is how you can get at Kevin. He's a mute all week long unless he's talking to Tamara or me or Steve. But if you hashtag hashtag Ask Nash, you'll get to him here every week. Like Linus Knight did when he asks, where the F did the Nash interview, the one with the neon green gun shirt, that's no disappeared? Was it WCW history? No, that was guest booker. We had Kev book the if the Outsiders had stayed, what he would have liked to have seen creatively happen in the company.
I just had lost the lead to American History X to Ed Norton.
Right. So that was 1 month out of your neo-Nazi skinhead preparation, but it was for a role. Didn't you say you had just had long hair for something? And
yeah, I'd done a movie, and I probably came back from China or whatever. But anytime I dye my hair, I cut it all the way off.
I was thrilled to see you with the crew cut and the lime green shirt ready to be on camera. Jody Harris, I need workout advice. I'm a few years younger than you, and I work out 5 days a week. In the last 2 weeks, when doing leg press on machine, I felt a light pop under my rib cage. Then later in the day, pain for a few days. What am I doing wrong? Advice.
Number one, if you're a couple of years younger than me and you're working out 5 days a week, and it's weights, you're training too much, you're not recovering. That would be my first advice to you. I would think that most people, I would train maybe and I'm talking about weight training. It's completely different if you do weight training for 3 days and do cardiovascular for 2. Your ribs during a leg press would tell me that you're not breathing. You're holding your breath. And you're pushing, and you're probably either jacked a rib out or something, or cracked some cartilage. That cartilage in between. You're definitely not breathing.
Okay.
Your breathing's not right. So I would lower the weights on everything for a while. Make sure
Don't
you're
lift
breathing
more than 3 days, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should. The perfect at our age, because our joints are so busted up, it should really be you do your push day, which is chest, shoulders, and triceps. Maybe 3 working sets of chest. I would say 4 working sets of chest. I would actually maybe go 5. 5 working sets of chest, 3 working sets of shoulders, and 2 working sets of triceps. Then you go to legs. You do your compound movement, which I would hope if you're close to my age, you're not squatting. The downside injury-wise is much too high for what you're going to get out of it. And then I would do probably Romanian, some kind of a stiff-legged. I would do some kind of a deadlift, but light. I do it in a Smith machine. Something for your hamstrings.
What do the Romanians
just
have to
look
do
it
with
up.
this one? Okay.
And then I do a calf raise. And then on your pull day, you're going to do back. You want to do something for thickness. You want to do 4 sets of rows, 3 sets of pull downs, and then 3 sets of biceps. Maybe 2 sets of 2 sets of biceps, and maybe 2 sets of hammer curls. And that would be my workout. That's not including the warm-up sets, but I'm talking about, finding something that you can't get it on 11th rep.
All right. Joe Weider would be proud of this episode. Lindsay, the cupcake girl, my new husband and I are going to be in your neck of the woods at the end of June for our honeymoon, staying in North Redington. What are some things we need to do and see when we are there? Neither of us have been before.
In my neck of the woods?
North Redington, is that Illinois? Yeah, or Michigan? North Redington. I assumed it was something in Michigan.
Let me see. I don't know where the fuck North Redington.
North Redington. Oh, no, Florida.
North Redington, Florida?
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you where it is. I'm feeling like it's
North
West
Redington
Coast.
Beach.
Indian Shores, Indian Rocks. Okay, so this is just south of Tampa.
You're nowhere near me. I'm on the ocean, sweets.
Other side. Gee, he's on the Atlantic.
Yeah.
You're talking about
You guys are on the kiddie pool. You're in the Gulf.
You're on the Gulf.
There's no waves over there.
It's she's going to be south of Clearwater, Tampa, etc. Shit. How about in the audience, Steve? Send me some folks who are sitting here as part of the Kliq This TV 11 Soft Club.
Yeah, that's 175 miles from my house, 3-hour drive.
David Van Bogelen. Hey, Dave, could you please say I never had a problem with David Van Bogelen? I want to use it as my ringtone.
I never had a problem with David Van Bogelen.
Tremendous. Well done. It's the best cameo you'll ever get, David. Ace Ramon, could you and Kid do an NWO photo shoot and include Brett and Shawn? That would be cool since they're both former members. What would it be for?
How would we get together? Maybe we'll all show up at Taker's podcast.
That would be the NWO edition. That would be tremendous. Hosted by The Undertaker. Tremendous. Steve suggested WrestleMania Access as a special $250 photo op.
You're never getting Shawn Michaels in that.
Mr. Berger, would you consider the Kliq a faction? Because they weren't exclusively wrestling as a group like the Four Horsemen or the Nation.
We never wrestled together.
Right. So he was saying
it was a backstage political group.
That's exactly what he's saying. He said, I would say they were a bunch of like-minded guys that understood business.
I'd say we're a bunch of cutthroat motherfuckers that held a lot of people back. See, I said that with a straight face, and people will buy that. God,
they're going to isolate that clip. They're going to isolate that clip. He even said it.
No, it was 5 guys that loved the business, that had very like psychology, and if you didn't, we beat it into you. But
wait for the retort by Carl Olay or somebody.
me and Carl are buds now.
Live audience. Who else we got here? Let's have someone wrap it up. Ivan Garcia. No one better than Ivan Garcia to wrap us up tonight. Would you consider the non-human intelligence UAPs are bending space-time to travel? Could it be why we started Space Force? Space as in 3-dimensional space of all of Earth. I just read them.
Ivan, I'm still wondering whether or not Hexeth is going to get cleared, man. As they say, that thought's above my pay grade.
Kliq This is a production of Butch and Sundance Media, produced in association with Podcast Heat. Created by Tristan Nash, Kevin Nash, and Sean Oliver. Producer Steve Kaufman. Graphics by Dominic D'Angelo. Title sequence and audio edit by Wesley Burleson. Theme song by Dale Oliver. Technical research by Tristan Nash. Copyright 2024. Butch and Sundance Media. Kev, would you like to do the first one of 2025 next week?
Only if I can be jerking off in a Space Force outfit.
never answers a thing. Let us free to breathe in air we're supposed to breathe. Through twists and turns you've come to love me. Now I'm cold, I'm frozen. Baby, we're broken, and the customer service never answers a thing. Yeah, the customer service never answers a thing. Yeah, the customer service never